Okay, so tonight we're continuing Tehilim, Psalms, Perek Mem Hey, chapter 45. This one is not too long, but it's very different than the typical Perek in Tehilim. And there's some discussion about what the major theme here is. It's not too obvious in the beginning what it's all about. There's a lot of talk about a king, a special king, the qualities of a righteous king. But the consensus is that this Perek, and there are other Perakim as well, mentions who Mashiach will be. What will he be like? What kind of a leader will he be? How will he convince the world that he's the leader? So therefore this is an important chapter, not only because it follows a description of galuyot, of diaspora and exile and suffering and pain, which we've covered enough. And unfortunately, there's a lot of discussion about that too. This Perek seems to be a continuation, and it's the finale. The finale was pretty much the last episode after a long and difficult journey, which is what this world is all about, the physical world. We finally come to peace. We finally come to realize what the ultimate purpose of creation is. And that comes about with the revelation of the truth. And the one who's responsible to bring that about is Mashiach, the Messiah, who will be a king. In other words, he will rule, he will govern for whatever number of years is left until the year 6000, which according to our tradition, that is when the world to come begins. So there will be an era where there will be no more war. And this era is described in greater detail in the prophets, in the Nevi'im. Here we're dealing with Ketuvim, the scriptures. Nonetheless, there are various remazim, hints, in the Ketuvim as well as in the Torah, that there will be such a time that we're all looking forward to. This is not only one of the principles, important principles in our faith, in Judaism, that we look forward to this, that we want this to happen, and it's not so much because of us that we want it, it's because we want it for the sake of God. We want everybody in the world to worship only one God, for there to be unity, for there to be no dissension, for there to be no war, and no pain, and no suffering, and no death. So this will be a very special era that people have heard about, not just Jews. People in general, a lot of non-Jews somehow go along with this, and they know that there will be such a time. Even the Muslims believe in the Mahdi. In other words, there will be a time when things will be very, very different than what we see them today. This Perek, therefore, has a lot of emphasis on how the Jewish people will turn out to be. Not so much just on the Mashiach, but also the Jewish people. After all, he's been discussing their pain and their suffering, so a lot of the focus has been on them. So, don't think things are going to be too bad for too long. In the end, things will be very, very good. So sometimes the words may appear to be simple, but it's very difficult to figure out what is he talking about. Who is he relating this to? So in the beginning, he talks about Shoshanim. Shoshanim are roses. Roses. In other words, that this is for the conductor, Lamnatseach. We're familiar with this word already. There's a lot of songs, praises for the conductor. But this is Al Shoshanim, upon the Shoshanim. Now some say it's a musical instrument. The consensus doesn't agree that this is just a musical instrument. There's something about roses here. And I'm going to explain. But this one is also Livnei Korach, by the sons of Korach. And so are several chapters after this one. There's a whole group of chapters that are attributed to the children of Korach, the ones that were saved, remained alive, not like their dad, who was swallowed up by the earth. And this is also maskil. Maskil meaning to be enlightened. In other words, pay attention to these words and you will be enlightened by what he has to say. This is also a shir yedidot. This is a song of love. Yedidot is love and affection. So, on the one hand, the commentaries explain that he's about to describe the characteristics of a righteous king, of a true king, a Jewish king we're talking about. But, as I said earlier, some say that pretty much the entire parak has to do with not just a king, but Melech HaMashiach. Since we just finished talking about exile, it is befitting to talk about how it will be when Mashiach comes. So what's the Shoshanim here all about? So either you say the Shoshanim, the roses, have to do with Korach, or I should say the children of Korach. As the rabbis tell us, they were called roses, or they are described as roses, being picked by God, being saved by God, among the many thorns. There is such a verse, there's such a pasuk, Shoshana ben hachochim. Just like a rose, sometimes you may find it among thorns. Everywhere is thorns, but there's one rose, beautiful rose that stands out. And at times, the Jewish people have been compared to a Shoshana ben hachochim, where there are many, many enemies, many people who are not doing the right things. And there's one Shoshana, there's a rose that looks beautiful, it's fragrant, it's attractive, or as we say in Spanish, llama atención. Llama atención in Spanish means it draws attention. It's so beautiful, it's colorful. So it could be, that's what he's referring to, that at one time these children of Korach were saved, were picked, like the Shoshana. So the Bnei Korach are the ones being called Shoshanim. That is one explanation. The righteous, the tzaddikim, are also compared to Shoshanim. Righteous people amongst those who are not righteous. So they are like the roses. Why like the roses? Because a rose is something that people enjoy. People can benefit from. It's something that you can detect its fragrance from a distance. Because they have good deeds, they're righteous. So it's something that people enjoy having them around. So this could also be referring to Shoshanim, to the righteous people, to those that stand out amongst the thorns. However, it could very easily be referring to the Jewish people, since we will be talking about them. To the Shoshanim, to those who were amongst the thorns all these years. But they were roses, and nobody realized that, nobody noticed them perhaps. Well, now they will. So, you have various explanations as to what roses is doing in this first verse. But this is a shir yadidut. It's not just about roses, it's a song of love. What does love have to do with it? Many, many people may be good, but they're not beloved. People don't appreciate them. People don't realize how good they are. So a shir yadidut is a song of love. In other words, this hopefully will eventually get people to love the righteous, to love the people of Hashem. Those who have been denigrated, those who have been persecuted. This is a shir yadidut that hopefully will bring about a different relationship towards them than what they've experienced up until then. This could also be talking about a song of love in reference to Balei Teshuvah, those who have been distant and who have come back, that Hashem loves them. They should never think that they're no longer wanted. No, once a Jew returns, once a Jew has done Teshuvah, he has repented, he's loved. He's just like the righteous. God loves them and favors them. All right, so let's go on with the next pasuk. Rachash libi davar tov, omer ani ma'asai lemelech, leshoni et sofer mahir. A very interesting pasuk. If you follow it, you think you can understand it because the words are not so complex. But also, once again, what is he talking about? I consider this pretty much an introduction to what he's about to say. He's so excited. If you look at the words, if you have a Tehilim, you can see that this is a verse being said with excitement. Rachash libi means my heart is stirred. It wants to say something, it wants to express. It's so excited. But after talking about his heart, he says, Davar tov omer ani, ma'asai lemelech. I will say, I will use my mouth to describe something. I will talk about, my composition is, or my discussion will be, what I will talk about to the king. Leshoni et sofer mahir. My tongue is the pen of a quick or a skillful scribe. So if you analyze this pasuk, what you really see is three stages: the heart, the speech, and the writing. You know, there's a saying that the tongue is the scribe of the heart. What people say, how they express themselves. So here, I realized this. I didn't really see anybody divided up like that. You know, people have explanations, commentaries have different explanations for it. But here it's clearly divided into three parts. There's a part that says, I'm so excited in my heart that I want to say something to the king or about the king, and I want to write. And my pen, or my tongue in this case, the shoni, is an etz sofer mahir. It's skillful, it's quick. It's all about excitement. And I can tell you that I once had this kind of a sensation myself, maybe more than once, where I need to prepare an article. I need to write something about some subject. I don't know what the subject will be. I'm not really sure what to say, what to write. And I'm sitting down. All of a sudden, I have thoughts running through my mind at a very high speed that I can't keep up with my pen. I'm writing this handwritten first. Eventually goes onto the computer. And all of a sudden, before you know it, something several pages long is written maybe half an hour. And it's not normal. It's not the usual thing. You have to think about it. You have to fix it, correct it, look up something. And all of a sudden, all the thoughts are coming out one after another. I don't know from where. I have no idea from where. Obviously, we know where it's coming from. Everything is from Shemayim. Our tradition is very clear. This part of this tradition is on this pasuk. It just happens to be on this pasuk. That if one does really want to do something, L'Shem Shamayim, for the sake of heaven, it's not something that he wants to gain from. They help him. But there's all kinds of help. We know that. Help can come in different ways, but that the help should come with a quick pen, as a skillful scribe, that was something new. That was something that you don't come across. Well, not everybody writes. Not everybody's a writer. Not everybody's in the business of putting something together in writing. But this was actually something that I noticed. I don't know if it's exactly this, but it could be because of what the commentaries say. That because of all this excitement in him, this is how he's expressing himself, that he wants to say, that he wants to write. And he has so much to describe, and he will describe to us in interesting detail who this Mashiach will be. And a little bit about what kind of a period the Messianic era will be. Okay, next pasuk. Yaf yafita mi bnei Adam. He begins to describe the king. He begins to describe Mashiach. This individual, Yaf yafita mi bnei Adam, hutzak chen b'siftotecha, al ken berachecha Elohim leolam. So the translation is approximately like this. You look very, very nice, more than the average individual, more than other people. Yaf yafita. There's something very beautiful about you. Besides the beauty, which is external, chutzak chen b'siftotecha. There's some chen. Chen is charm. Some charm. People are attracted to him. People like seeing him, not necessarily only because of the beauty, but he has chen. Umotze chen. Or as in Spanish we say, simpático. I'm not sure for the exact English word for it, but I think it's charm or grace that people sometimes have. That, you know, even though Shlomo Melech warns us, sheker achen ve'hevel hayofi, someone who's charming, that could be misleading. And yofi, beauty, is vain. In other words, don't judge a person by the book cover, right? Judge it by the inside. See what's inside. You don't want to go by external looks. So even though Solomon tells us that, nonetheless, there is something about chen. As long as everything else is good about the person, chen is an additional asset. It's an additional quality that people like him. People like talking to him. People are attracted. People want to befriend him. So this melech, this individual, will have yofi and will have chen. But this chen is not just charm. This is chen besiftotecha, in the way he will speak. Charm is poured upon your lips. Al ken berachecha Elohim leolam. This must be, this is the way I'm translating this. This must be as a result of the blessing of Hashem. In other words, this is not man-made. This is not something normal that a lot of people have. No, there's a combination here. And he's not done yet. There's a combination with the way he looks, the way he will appear, the chen in his speech. That's very important. The speech, that means that he's able to convince. There's something so nice that he's saying. His message, the way he's communicating himself is so beautiful. And everybody will say, this is a beracha from Shamayim. This is a blessing. This cannot be the natural or normal type of character that people are endowed with. They will see that this is only because it's a blessing from Hashem. Chagor harbecha al yarech gibor hodcha vadarecha. Okay? So now he begins to speak to this Mashiach, who is a very unique individual, not the average person. And he says something very, very interesting here. Gird your sword upon you, upon your thigh, al yarech. Gibor, you are mighty. Hodecha v'hadarecha, your majesty and splendor. So if you look at the pasuk, even if you're reading it with that translation, you will say, what does harbecha, your sword, have to do with your majesty? So there's different opinions as to what this verse is really saying. But if you analyze it, and you remember that he's speaking about Mashiach, then it makes a little bit more sense. Otherwise, without Mashiach being the major theme here, without us knowing who he's talking about, it's a little bit difficult. Right? Gird your sword upon your thigh. You're mighty, right? But it is your majesty and your splendor. Hodcha is majesty. Hod in Hadar is splendor. Okay. But if you think a little bit about Mashiach, and if you know a little bit of who he represents, what he represents, what kind of an individual he will be, then you're reminded that he doesn't need a weapon to fight a war. As we will soon see a little bit more detail, he will not need any of this. You know where his might will come from? From his majesty and from his splendor. So one way of interpreting this verse is that Hagor harbecha yarech. In other words, gird yourself with that sword. What is your sword? It's not the regular sword that we are familiar with. His sword is hodecha v'hadarecha. His might, his power, will be not weapons. He won't need it. It will be his majesty. It will be his splendor. The people on their own will realize no use fighting him. It will be very convincing. Not because of his physical power, not because of his weapons, his majesty. But wait a minute. Does he need to fight? Does Mashiach need to fight? Hopefully he will convince everybody that he's the king. But the commentaries tell us that in the very beginning, the early stages of the Messianic era, there will be a Milchemet Gog uMagog. There will be a form of World War III, supposedly, or something like that, a major battle, major wars, more than one. And some say World War I and World War II were part of this process of wars or battles of Gog uMagog, which involved many countries, not necessarily one country. And Mashiach will be involved in the last one. So at the early stages of when he comes, there is a confrontation. There is a war. But to win this war, he doesn't need a real cherev. He doesn't really need weapons. It will be his majesty. There's something about him that will be able, of course, to triumph where other kings failed. where others had to fight the regular way, he won't have to do that. Next pasuk is speaking a little bit about who he is and how he will succeed to convince people. Pasuk Hey says as follows: V'hadarecha tzlach rechav al dvar emet ve'anvat tzedek v'torecha noraot yeminecha. It's another pasuk that is somewhat difficult to understand, even though the words are not, but you'll see what I mean when I translate it for you. Hadarecha tzlach. Hadar, your splendor, will succeed. In other words, with your splendor, you will succeed. Well, we just saw that, okay. And how will you convince everyone? Not just with your hadar, but rechav al dvar emet ve'anvat tzedek. You will ride for the sake of the truth in righteous humility. I warned you. It's a little hard. What do you mean? You will ride for the sake of truth, ve'anvat tzedek, in righteous humility. V'torecha noraot yeminecha, and your right hand will guide you to noraot, to incredible, wondrous deeds or feats, miracles, basically. Oh, that I can understand. I can relate to that a little bit. And I think that the last words pretty much give away everything. He will do things that are miraculous. The last words are easier to understand. Torecha noraot yeminecha. In other words, somehow your right hand will guide or will demonstrate all these incredible deeds that you will perform. So that will be convincing. In other words, our tradition is very, very clear. Mashiach has to prove himself. We've had false prophets. We've had false messiahs. We will only accept the one who proves himself. And there's a list of things that he has to accomplish. And there are ways in which he has to do it. You can't use witchcraft, right? There were people who used witchcraft, magic, all kinds of tricks. But they were not sent from God. And how do we know that they were false? In the end, they were killed or died. Not only didn't they comply or fulfill everything that it was expected of them, they were killed or died. So they didn't finish their job. He will demonstrate incredible feats, but there's something else here. V'hadarecha tzlach means that with your splendor you will succeed. In other words, he will succeed. That's the main point. Okay, so it says how? It says with splendor. But at least it says he will succeed. So we know he will succeed in his mission. What will it be besides the miracles that he will do? There's another key word here. Rechav al dvar emet ve'anvat tzedek. You will ride for the sake of the truth. In other words, your message, you will ride. In other words, you will communicate a message of truth. Everybody will believe you. Basically, they will see for a fact that what he's saying is true. He will be convincing. Ve'anvat tzedek. And it will be with righteous humility. In other words, he will be a humble person. He will be a righteous person. His character will be of noble character, not someone corrupt. In other words, his qualities, his demeanor, his performance, everything will be convincing. That's the splendor and the majesty that we were talking about. But he will be emphasizing the truth, and you can say he will be emphasizing anvat tzedek, righteous humility. There's a lot of people who are fake, who are humble in a fake manner, not really righteously humble. So when he says righteous humility, it means real humility. So either this describes him, or it describes his message that will contain truth and righteous humility, which can be seen about him. How many leaders, how many kings, how many dictators were corrupt, far from being righteous, far from being humble? All the time, in every generation. It's incredible. Here, it will be just the opposite. He will be a real leader with a very, very special, real message. And he will be convincing. because of his personality and because he will prove it. Next pasuk, Chitzecha shenunim, amim tachtecha yiplu belev oivei hamelech. Your arrows are shenunim, are sharpened. Nations will fall beneath you. In other words, the arrows will fall into the hearts of the king's enemies. Arrows? We said he doesn't need arrows. He doesn't need a sword. This is based on a verse in Yeshayahu, I think it is, that through his tongue will be so sharp, he will be able to punish people, punish the enemies, punish the wicked through his tongue. He will say something and that will be it. That is the meaning of that. His arrows are very sharp. Arrows have to be sharp. Arrows are usually sharp. No, shenunim, they're so sharp that they on their own somehow will bring down the enemies of the king. What kind of arrows? The speech. We believe in blessings, we believe in curses, right? In other words, there is some power to the speech. And that is something that he will have. That is something that will be noticeable about him. That is a weapon. And through that weapon, he will succeed as well. Another proof that it's him. Kisacha Elohim olam va'ed, shevet mishor shevet malchutecha. Your throne, Kisacha, Elohim olam va'ed. Several interpretations are given about the word Elohim here, meaning God. One way of saying it is that your throne is from God. And therefore, in your case, it will be olam va'ed, it will be forever. Shevet mishor shevet malchutecha, your scepter of justice is the scepter of your kingdom. In other words, the way he will rule, his scepter, the way he will be through mishor. Mishor means justice, and that is how he will rule or judge people. In his whole malchutecha, his whole malchut, his whole kingdom will be based on that. Well, it's about time. We haven't had justice for a long, long time. So one of the things that will stand out during his reign will be mishor, or tzedek, justice. And his throne will last forever. This is not a king that is assassinated. This is not a king that is overthrown or dies and his son takes over. Kisacha Elohim olam va'ed. You could also say this is the throne of God as a result of the arrival of Mashiach. The throne of God will be forever. But the basic way of understanding these words is that this is all from Shemaim. This is not that he takes power on his own. This is not that somebody decides one day to make a revolution. Kisach Elohim. And therefore, because it's from God, it is blessed, it will last. Next. Ahavta tzedek v'tisna resha al kem yeshachacha Elohim Elohecha shemen sason mechaverecha. Beautiful words, but again, it's not so clear what he's trying to say unless you remember that this is Mashiach. Well, we just finished saying that Mashiach is just and is righteous. This will be clear to everyone, even to the non-Jews, that he loves righteousness and he hates wickedness. There are a lot of people that want to be righteous, but they tolerate wickedness. You can't do that. To really be righteous, you have to protest. You have to fight against that which is wicked. You can't have it both ways. So he will have the love for righteousness and he will hate that which is evil and that which is wicked. Al-Ken, because of that, he was anointed. This individual is chosen, not just any individual. He has what it takes. Our kings, and especially our leaders like Moshe and David, were chosen for certain qualities they had. They cared about the people. They were compassionate, right? It's not just anybody's picked from above. He too, Mashiach, has some very special qualities. By the way, he's a human being, just like anybody else. He's a human being. But he's obviously endowed with a very high, lofty soul. But it's not just the soul, it's the character, the qualities of the person, over which we have free will. If somebody's God-fearing, if somebody's good and nice, that's not given to him from above. That is the way he is. Otherwise, where's the free will? He's not a robot. He's a human being who has very, very special, refined qualities. He loves that which is just and he hates that which is wicked, and therefore he is anointed. Your God has anointed you with oil of joy. And that one, when I first saw that, I was curious myself, what kind of oil is an oil of joy? He says, with oil of joy above your chaverecha, above your friends. In other words, you've been picked above everybody else. Yeah, but why? Shemen sason. Now, we're familiar with the word sason. Sason means joy, gladness. Shemen sason. The simple understanding of these words is that when he's anointed, his anointment will bring happiness. His shemen, his oil, in other words, his anointment to become king over the world is what will ultimately bring sason. So this is a shemen of sason. This is not just an inauguration of a king. Or by the way, they have a big, what do they call it? A ball party? What do they call those big parties the kings have? You know, the president is elected and they have a inaugural ball or something like that. They dance and they eat and they drink. They probably drink more than what they eat, right? That's not happiness. That's hooliganism. That's what I would call. This is sason. This is really joy and gladness. We're so happy, we're so relieved to have somebody like that. You know, people say, oh, we're so happy the one we voted for became president. The one we voted for became prime minister. Why are you so happy? He can turn out to be the worst. You don't know. He's only human. And he's a politician. He's not necessarily righteous and humble. This appointment, this anointment will bring about shemen sason. And this will be, of course, mechaverecha, much more than your friends, your peers, everyone before you. This will be above your peers. This will be much more than them. So what will it be like? So the rabbis tell us, pretty much when Mashiach comes, we will be so happy we will forget our troubles. It was the past troubles. Because this is what we've been looking forward to. This is what we always wanted to have. So if you look forward to something and you finally get it, this is tremendous. It's so beautiful, it's so special. That's why he uses here the word sason in conjunction with the appointment or the anointment of Mashiach. Pasuk Tet, Mor va'ahalot ketziot kol bigdotecha minechlei shem mini semechucha. Now he begins to describe a little bit more about the character that we do not always see. And I think that is why he chooses to describe it as certain fragrant spices. It's a little bit difficult to understand why he chooses certain spices. Apparently these must be very fragrant and very special, and I'll do my best to translate it. Mor va'ahalot ketziot kol bigdotecha. All your garments have the fragrance of mor. Mor in English is, I think it's pronounced mir or myr. Yeah, mor. M-Y-R-R-H. And ketziot are, I think, translated aloes.
What?
Aloes. Actually, that's, I think, no, that's ahalot. Ahalot is aloes, In Ketziot is Cassia, Cassia, something like that. Very fragrant, very special. Kol bigdotecha, all his garments have this fragrance. And where are they coming from? Minechalei shen minisim mechucha. They're coming from ivory places that bring you joy. Again, another pasuk that you wonder, what is he trying to say here? The words are somewhat understandable, something very fragrant about his garments. When we're talking about garments, the rabbis tell us it's something more internal, something that covers him. It's either his character, internal character, that was how he really is deep inside, but it's more than that. It's fragrant. Fragrant is something that people can detect. Therefore, this is his deeds, his performance. A lot of people are good and kind, but they don't do anything. So here we're talking about his character, but also that character is fragrant. In other words, what he practices, what he preaches. Whatever he believes and whatever he is, he does. So it's so fragrant, it's so nice. This is a person who everybody will love. Nobody will have anything bad to say about him. On the contrary, they will see how fragrant it is. They will want to come close to him. Coming from ivory palaces, minisim mechucha, that bring you joy. Anybody have a clue what he's saying about that? Ivory palaces? This is really all a description of the times. This is a description, really, the commentators tell us, of the tranquility, peace of mind that will exist there. So he describes it in terms that we can pretty much understand or appreciate. Ivory palaces, fragrant clothing. But I think it's a lot more than that. It's not, I don't think that just does justice to the pasuk, just to tell us that it describes the time. I think, but personally, that he's talking also about the Bet HaMikdash that will be rebuilt. There's a little bit of a mention about eventually the restoration of the temple, which is a very important aspect or part of the Messianic era. And in talking about Echle Shen, palaces of ivory, in other words, your Bet HaMikdash, your temple will be greater than anything else. Your temple will outshine everyone else. And this is what will bring you the joy. This is what will make you happy. So in talking to the Jewish people, he's telling them, this is what you should be expecting. Everything will be so beautiful. Everything will be of the best quality. And Hechalei Shen, palaces made out of ivory, it's like telling someone today out of the most beautiful jade or granite or marble, to impress upon them that this will be so beautiful and so special. So whether he's talking about the era or talking about the individual himself, he's saying that this will be very, very beautiful. It will be very, very nice. And this is what will bring you tremendous joy. All right, next pasuk. Benot melachim bikerotecha nitzeva shegali mincha bechetem ofir. Also another pasuk that is a little bit difficult, but the words are not. The translation is as follows. The daughters of the kings will come and visit you. And the queen stands erect at your right, adorned with the finest gold. Ketem Ophir is a very special type of gold. Who is he talking about here? He's talking about how the rich and famous, as we would call them today, will all want to come and be close to him and be there. Not anymore in the, what do they call it, the Grammys at Hollywood? Not anymore there. No, this is Yerushalayim. This is Al-Quds. as we call it in Arabic. This is in the Holy of Holies. This is what their focus will be. This is whom they will want to see. Who will want to see the daughters of the kings? In other words, the rich and famous. That's the way I call it. They will want to visit you. Nitzevash shegali mincha, and even the queen will want to be at your right, dressed in the best clothing, which is what they attempt to do today also, the stars, right? The movie stars, in their best. Even though it's not so modest, they try to outdo each other. This will be really bechetem ofir, something very, very precious and expensive, not because of the brand. It will be really, really expensive. They will put on their best clothing. They will want to come in their best, yes, to be present, to be next to you. Even the daughters of even the queen. Why? They will want to come and give you honor. They will finally show you respect. So, this is exactly what will happen. That a lot of the nations that were originally critical of the Jewish people, as they are today, where they try to censor them and try to excommunicate them, right? This will be the opposite. Those same nations, those same countries will want to befriend you, will want to be close to you, will come visit you. There's an interesting midrash on this pasuk. Remember Paro? Well, there were many, many kings who were called Paro, but the Paro of Abraham. Paro says, this guy, Abraham Avinu, is a very, very special man. There's nobody like him. I'm going to send my daughter to be a shifcha. Let her be a servant, a maid in the house of Abraham, rather than her being a queen in the palace. And Avimelech did the same thing with his daughter. Let her be a maid in this household, rather than her being a queen in some palace. As soon as they saw who they were dealing with, that's what they said. And Hagar, remember Hagar? Hagar, she was the maid of Abraham. Later he married her. According to the opinion that Keturah was Hagar, he married her a second time as well, when Sarah passed away. But at first she started out as a maid. They understood where they were. They'd rather be there. And this is what will happen when Mashiach comes. They're all going to come there. They're all going to be close to the Bet HaMikdash, be close to Mashiach. So this is a description of how they will all be convinced not only of the leader, but of the truth, and where the focus should really be. Next pasuk. Pasuk Yud Aleph, Shim'i bat ure'i v'hati oznech v'shichechi amech uvet avich. Hear, daughter, in other words, listen and pay attention, incline your ear, and forget your people in your father's house. Here he's saying that forget about everybody else. Who's this everybody else? Listen, pay close attention, and forget about your own people and your father's household. How could you say that? But it's not just your father's household and your own people, it's the wicked amongst you. It's those who reneged. And we have a tradition that there will be such individuals who will try to even fight Mashiach at the early stages. They won't want him. So therefore he mentions, my daughter, listen, pay close attention, incline your ear, forget about everyone else. Forget about what everybody else says. And listen carefully to what I'm about to say. Before we continue, the emphasis at this point, towards the end of the Perek, is about Teshuvah. Even though we have a tradition that at that point when things become very, very clear, there can be no more converts, there can be no more Teshuvah really. It has to happen before. Still, he reminds us that at the very early stages, when you begin to see that the end is coming, be careful in who you choose, on which side you're going to be. Don't choose the side of the wicked. Choose the side of those who are returning to their roots, those who are doing teshuvah. Incline your ear, therefore, to listen to what I'm about to say, because afterwards, you will not be accepting any converts. And guess what? All that you've been hearing until now is partially a description of them wanting to come, those who are not Jewish, not only to visit, but to convert too. Why not? Let's be like them, be part of them. Now, this makes sense. Up until then, no, this is too difficult. But now, look at the glory. Look at the kavod that they will have. Everybody will want to join. So therefore, this pasuk is intended for those individuals who early on may hesitate what to do. So incline your ear and listen. And forget or let go of those individuals who are against Mashiach, who are against these principles. Because then, if you do teshuvah, if you do return to your roots, the king, Hashem, in this case it's Hashem, will desire your beauty. He is your master, and therefore bow to him. In other words, if Am Yisrael, if the Jewish people do repent, he will favor us. He will desire us. It will make a big difference in how Mashiach comes. Does it come with pain and suffering, with much war and struggle? Or will he show us his outstretched arm, come, return, in a miraculous way, with very little suffering, if at all? Unfortunately, so far we've had a lot of pain and suffering in World War II through the Holocaust. We don't want that to happen again, Chas v'Shalom. We hope that all the terrible things are behind us. But that's what he's reminding us of. We want the king to desire us. Not that I have to bring you the Messiah because I promised you. No, I want him to come because you deserve it. Because you want to return to me, because you want to knock on my door. That's what every father would want if a child left him. My son, come knocking on my door, I'll leave the door open. And that's exactly the relationship we have with Hashem. We've been distanced because of our actions. And Hashem says, please come back. Incline your ear. And if you do so, the king will desire you because he's your master after all. And therefore, bow down to him and not to any other powers. This is interesting because here he's telling us about the various nations that will come knocking on our door too. And he says the daughter of Tzor. Tzor is a city in Lebanon, Tyre. They will come with gifts. V'mincha panayich yechalu. They will basically come to greet you. They will come to seek you with gifts. Ashirei Am. Those who are rich, those who are wealthy will come and try to befriend you with gifts. As we said before, they will want to join us. But why say the daughter of Tzor? Why not just say everyone? I'm not sure why he chose Tzor. Could be various explanations. It could be that he's referring to the neighbors. And Lebanon is a neighbor. So the neighbors will come, and so will everybody else. Could be, I'm not sure. Or because they were wealthy at a certain given time. Either way, the emphasis here is that they will come to seek you and they will want to bring you gifts to show, that they favor you. Kol kevuda bat melech penima mimishbetzot zahav levusha. This is a very famous pasuk, perhaps one of the most famous pasukim of this perek. This one is more known because the rabbis talk a lot about this one. The simple meaning of this pasuk has nothing to do with what the rabbis tell us. The simple meaning has to do with kol kevuda. All the glory, the kavod of the princess is within. I'm translating first. Mimishbetzot zahav lebusha. Her clothing surpasses settings of gold. Mishbetzot is a setting. This is a very difficult pasuk if all you want to do is translate it literally. But I believe that what he's saying is, in various pasukim, not just in this pasuk, a description of how all the riches will come to Israel. Not just the people, will come the riches. And there is an interesting midrash that says that Atidah ha'okiyanus le'aki et kol ha'otzarot shetav'u ba. In the future, when Mashiach comes, the oceans, the big oceans, will spit out all the treasures that sank in it and deliver them to Eretz Israel. Interesting midrash. You think they're all gone? They're still looking for them today, special boats, and they sometimes are lucky they find a lot of lost treasure. But there must be a lot of gold. And now, we're not trying to be here selfish or greedy. What's this midrash all about? This midrash has to do with how the Bet HaMikdash will be built. In the same way that we are told that all the gold that Hashem made in the world is for the Bet HaMikdash, in reality, besides jewelry, I guess all the treasures will go towards that cause too. It's not that people are just going to take all the spoils for themselves. So perhaps that's the idea being expressed in Kol Kevuda Bat Melech Penima, all the treasures, all that kavod of kings, that is penima, that is somehow concealed. That's my way of understanding this based on that midrash. Because he's talking about a lot of treasure, he's talking about a lot of honor, a lot of wealth that will come. But the rabbis tell us this is referring to modesty. At least that is one interpretation. That's not necessarily the literal translation, but the interpretation, or one of the messages that is embedded in this verse is that a true modest Jewish girl stays indoors and doesn't just go out to be seen. The real kavod, the kevudah, the real kavod of a Jewish girl is penima, is how she conducts herself indoors. It doesn't mean that she can't go outside. In other words, that she's modest. She's modest internally when she's indoors, and she's modest that she doesn't go out and show herself. And if she does that, she will merit, as a lady by the name of Kimhi merited, that all her children, all her boys, were Kohanim Gedolim. They shared a certain amount of time in that position of being the high priests. And they asked her, Kimchi, what did you do so special to deserve that all your boys should be like that? And she said, when I was in my home, even indoors, I never let even the beams of my home see my hair. She covered herself, covered her hair. She was tsnuah, she was modest. So that is a characteristic of a true, modest Jewish girl, that she's careful with how she is, even indoors, she's modest. Otherwise, you can say, like the Targum says over here, that this is just a continuation of a description of all the treasures that the kings have in their penima, in their treasure houses. They will bring all of that to Yerushalayim. So what's B'mishbetzot Za'av Levusha? Perhaps to serve in the kehuna, in the priesthood. And the reason why the priesthood is mishbetzot, because the Kohanim Gedolim would be wearing a breastplate. So a lot of that gold will go towards the service of the Bet HaMikdash. It could also be that this pasuk goes along with the next pasuk, that Lirekamot tuval lamelech betulot acharei re'oteh muva'ot lach, which means in embroidered garments she will be brought to the king, the maidens in her train, her companions will be led to you. It's all part of the same idea, that all the very famous and all the very wealthy and all the kings and princesses will come dressed up in their best clothing, following you, going towards you, to meet you, to be with you. And the next pasuk is what we said earlier, has to do with the desire, the interest to convert. Tuvalna bismachot vagil tevoena beichal melech. They will all be brought with gladness and joy. They will enter the palace of the king. They will be brought with gladness and joy. Yes, they will be excited. They will come with joy. They will want to be a part of the nation. They will want to be a part of our people. They will be happy about it. Not like now, or not like in the past, where they only gave us trouble. So this will be a time where the entire world will not only understand what is going on, they will gladly want to be part of us and come to Israel in joy. תחת אבותיך יהיו בניך תשיתמו לשרים בכל הארץ. Your sons will succeed your fathers. They will be appointed ministers all over the land. What that means is, this one interpretation is, in this place where your fathers were once living, that your children, the next generations, will be appointed ministers over the land. The Jewish people are returning to the land. This is where you were, this is where you are now. This is where we will be. And not just be, but we will be ministers over the land. We will receive back our appointments. And some say it's saying not just about to be there, but that they will be righteous once again in the way that their forefathers were once upon a time, because they will do teshuvah. They will come back. Last pasuk, Askira shimcha bechol dor vador al ken amim yoducha l'olam va'ed. Your name will be remembered throughout the generations, therefore will the nations praise you forever and ever. Last pasuk is talking about Hashem. We've been talking about Mashiach, but the real king is Hashem. And at that point, everyone will remember Hashem. Everybody will know Hashem. Everybody will praise Hashem forever and forever. Amen. The segula of this perek is a very unusual segula for someone who has a very difficult woman. Married to a wife who's very, very difficult, he should read this perek. Don't ask me why. This is a perek that Hashem hopefully will bring all kinds of yeshuot, all kinds of salvations for all of us. Amen.